I thought I needed to make a video called Why Orak Calls Me Predatory and Why It Was Necessary to Human Shield. So, at core basis, calling me predatory is a defamation of my character, and numerous people report having similar harsh verbal abuse tactics leveled at them professionally or to disrupt their role in society and the community. It is rather shocking that somebody in social services of any kind in the nonprofit sector would so flamboyantly and casually engage in vituperative rhetoric about supporters, volunteers, donors, contributors, participants, clients, customers. The reason why it was necessary to human shield was that due to the pronounced bullying of vulnerable and disabled individuals, when I got the courage to bring my concerns forward, I knew I would become enemy number one in his pantheon of rage, but that it was a sacrificial role to play, that I would human shield more vulnerable people that he might otherwise have wasted that aggression on. So much as I like to break up fights and get in the middle and be a peacemaker, my role, jumping into the role of whistleblower, and thereby engaging his attack mode, which includes calling me predatory, was a way of human shielding so that less vulnerable people would be less targeted by him. And that even includes vulnerable women business owners who had been targeted by him, as well as other more vulnerable clients, economically vulnerable clients, customers, women that he targeted. So much as one waves a red flag in front of a bull to engage the bull's rage, I brought my concerns to Aaron, expecting a far more professional response. But I knew that I might become then the target. But my hopes are that other people who have had to interact with him are less targeted because he's spinning his wheels full of rage on me. Is it fun being in that position? No, I completely dreaded it. But it did seem to be the right thing to do. It also seems to be a demonstration of a concerning tendency. It is very damaging to be called predatory after I've reported gender-based violence from his clients. That to me indicates beyond it. It would be mild to say it is an unsafe organization to report gender-based violence to. Not only did I feel unsafe, I felt that I had to sugarcoat it, be very subtle, hint at it, put it in writing versus have a face-to-face discussion. And the fact that a woman who is vulnerable reports gender-based abuse of herself and others is then called predatory is an extreme irony and very debasing when misogynists frame the victim as the predator. And that would be a Darvo tactic, which is deny, attack, reverse victim offender roles, in which Ozark is now the victim of a predatory female whistleblower. What I don't like about it is that it is just a contrived display of weakness. It's very illogical to pretend you are the victim in this situation, but it also displays so much weakness that I find it very humiliating. And a more confident approach would be to say, thank you for your concerns. That's a normal part of doing business. I'm not going to flip out because I'm going to keep my cool. And so the shocking, preposterous freakout that he did is, I think, a confirmation of guilt. Yes, indeed, there are far too many witnesses of him making sexual jokes around the homeless. he was concealing his criminal history from the public while he engaged in fundraising and verbal abuse of the community. So freaking out on me with such an today I woke up and here was my realization. Oh my gosh, it has been longer than 365 days. How can you sustain that? It's like 390 something days. How can you sustain that much anger and persecution that you would want someone to have no food, no adequate treatment, no forum, no arbitration, no right of a formal grievance process, and just have this most extreme draconian exclusion? I questioned the whole validity of his starvation program, which, when I tell people about it, they find that preposterous, that he would look at a homeless person and say, don't feed him. And that this was going on years, even before, when I was still living in Seaside, he was starving people when he delivered the meals. Oh, you complain of food poisoning? No food for you for a week. No food for her for a week, for 2 months. No, and that no food for you style of running a soup kitchen is really offensive. The metaphor I've always thought of is even serial killers get meals in jail. Why do you use meal denial as a punishment? I know that was done in the 1940s. I think it was still practiced as a form of like Victorian parenting, like sort of headmaster ritual type parenting. Oh, we'll send him to dinner we'll send him to bed with no dinner. But this is not Charles Dickens. This is not Oliver Twist. This is not an 1890s workhouse. And I even thought, well, maybe it has something to do with famine or genocide in Palau. So I was trying to research Palau. I guess he's like half Palauian or so, thereabouts. And actually, the Japanese were trying to starve the indigenous Palau people in the 1940s when they were trying to stage military operations or make it like a staging ground, this island. And I started to think, well, maybe this is intergenerational trauma. Maybe there's some deep cultural anthropological thing. At first I thought the authoritarian ruler system is not accepted in democratic framework, which I tried to explain that in my email to Aaron, and nothing about consensus committee, non-authoritarianism it seemed to have any resonance, because in most instances, when I've tried to help the homeless, Food Not Bombs or Occupy or various things like that, it's not. Authoritarianism is viewed as illegitimate inherently, so where they got off on thinking that we would just accept like a fascism-centric style of soup kitchen was like they just rolled in with this like presumption that everybody would be down and dig it. So I've been feeling huge amounts of kind of like I want more people to rise up, and that leaves me feeling frustrated. But what I realized about 2 days ago was they already did. They already blew the whistle loud. They told me because they knew I would get their message through. The first one who told me about the sexual innuendo, she said, I was like, oh no, I know I'm going to be the one. And she's like, yeah, and we trust you to do that. I was entrusted with the message, and it's been hard being a whistleblower, being called predatory. I wonder what he means, really. I use that a lot in my video blogs. I take it he watches my video blogs. So probably he was just linguistic drifting, or like tongue-tied for words. Or normally he would call me the B word, but he can't say that to the harbor or something. But I think maybe what he actually means is that I'm fierce. Like, of course I'm fierce. I'm a lion. I'm a Leo. We are fierce. I think the people will still rise up. I think the people will prevail, even if it takes 5 or 10 years. I think that's what remains to be seen. What kinds of transitions and changes. And this cannot be left undone, just like you couldn't leave an elderly burning in a building. Like, you can't leave this amount of necessary cogitation, like unattended. It is important to have disability rights at a soup kitchen in Astoria, Oregon. There is no excuse not to have disability rights. And to have structurally disenfranchised the disabled via your offensive staircase or your preference for violent males is really shocking. It's absolutely shocking. And then to treat me like the enemy? Oh, I'm predatory because I support people in wheelchairs? That's a shocking level of immaturity and a harshness that I think is so obvious that it plays out, and people can still give them money. And I hope he is kinder to the people he doesn't kick out of his facility because I put a spotlight on him. I hope he's kinder. I hope Erin is kinder, even though she allows this massive amount of discrimination to go on. I've noticed they tried to do a ton of reconfiguring of their branding. Like they tried to make a Ministry of Equity or like an ombudsman, and they got like a token queer to give the voice to no, we don't persecute queers. Well, Ozark cornered a gay man in a restroom and kicked him out for some petty BS. That was a homophobic hate crime. So yes, that's nice that you got a token queer to fly your little rainbow flag around, but I'm a queer that you're discriminating against. So you don't treat all queers great. You just treat your token queer great, okay? So that's not inclusion, and that's not public accommodation, and that's not a relief of the civil rights discrimination factor, or gender discrimination, or disability discrimination. So, I think that's all.